Oh my god, some of these I'm gonna have to look up because I've either never used them or I've used them like once and then I said never again. Yes, I think that's Overdrive Serum. Well, we'll definitely start with the grenade. S, A, B, C, D. Alright, so a mid tier. I think C feels a little more okay, like an okay tier to me. I know some people might say a B is more like an okay tier because it sits somewhere in the middle, but I feel like I think there are more good things than there are bad things in XCOM 2. Really, XCOM 2 just has utility items that's really just limited by the situational usefulness, not so much because they're bad or they're underpowered. The use case just doesn't come up too often, so... Oh yeah, one I feel like suffers pretty badly is the gas grenade. It's either a gas grenade or gas bomb. That's available to be purchased at the beginning of the game, and I never buy it. I never buy it. I used it once. I said never again. I may have even used it a couple times early on in my XCOM career. I mean, I'm really only using it because I'm out of cover anyway. Makes a lot of sense. You could use it if you're in coverage. It really, what it does is it just adds plus 20 defense. So if you got a guy that wants to take most of the shots from a pod, you could send them up in the full cover. That's a negative 40 to the enemy's aim. Throw a smoke bomb on them. That's then negative 60 to the enemy's aim. And at the beginning of the game, the enemies only have a 5% chance to hit that unit. That's like setting up for defensive usefulness. That's kind of weird to me. I'd rather set up for offense, not set up for defense. But hey, it can be used like that. I think this is way too situational for me, and I don't think it does enough. If it completely blocked line of sight, I could see how you would set up some nasty ambushes on following turns after revealing the enemy pod, or the fact that would actually be useful against a ruler as opposed to acting like a diet suppression. And it's definitely D. I don't hear people talk about the smoke bomb much, and that's probably for good reason. I do, however, hear people talk about the flashbang a lot. A lot of people swear by getting one of these at the beginning of the game. I've even grabbed a flashbang. It's rare, but I've done it from time to time. I'll grab a flashbang just to have it in case of emergencies. Let's pull up so we know exactly the numbers. It is called, so it disorients, and then disorients lowers enemy aim by a certain amount. It also removes Overwatch, which I did not remember. It kills psi reanimated corpses, which I do remember that it does that. Releases friendly units from mind control if used on caster. Yep, I do know that. Cancel. I didn't know it canceled the Viper's bind. And then disorient, I think, is a negative. Oh, it's a negative 20 actually. Negative 20 to aim, negative 6 mobility. You know what? It's kind of it's just the smoke bomb, but better. Yeah, because the radius on it is huge too. Also lowers mobility. Also lasts 2 turns. Now the smoke bomb lasts a couple turns too. Defensive bonus plus 20 it lasts 3 turns. It's still bad though. Yeah, I still bring more grenades than I do flashbangs. Although I wouldn't put it with the smoke bomb. It's better than the smoke bomb. It does a lot more too. Like it breaks mind control. Also removes the psi zombies too. If you hit the sectoid that reanimated it, that's because it's making it disoriented, so it can't use its mind stuff. But that does mean it'll start shooting, which is why I'm a little hesitant to throw this out when things get bad. I really have to think about the turn before I decide, all right, I'll throw flashbang as my last action. Even though I'm giving the sectoid negative 20 to aim, I would just prefer that it didn't shoot. 9 times out of 10, I prefer it just uses a mind ability, and it would just take it out in the following turn. The Nanoscale Vest, I can't remember if this is actually available at the very beginning, or if you actually need to research like a trooper. I think it might already be available. This just adds plus 1 health. This is in the dog water tier here. Plus 1 health. The only time you might take this is if you got to Predator armor upgrade too soon and you don't have any utility items to fill out your extra utility slots on your soldiers. You might just buy one of these just to fill out the utility slot. I've done it before. I've gotten Predator armor too soon and just not had enough items for people to hold, and I just bought one of those. And it might be good to get someone out of range if you're worried about a particular attack. Like for me, early game, I'm worried about 6 damage. I could consider taking it on someone that has 6 health that I really don't want to lose, just so they have 7 health and I don't have to worry about that 6 damage happening. The officer can do 6 damage early. That's their max. Sectoid, same. So for a little while, 6 is the most they can do. I think stun lancers can even do 6 too with a crit. So you might consider it to put them in 7 health. Right, get them out of that 6 health range. That's too specific. What else do you get pretty early? Battle scanner you get pretty early, but what else is already unlocked? I don't think anything else here is like already unlocked at the very beginning. Oh, medkits. Oh yeah, I forgot about medkits. Definitely better later. Definitely okay at the beginning. I could argue for taking one of each of these. I could, but I normally don't take medkits until later. So in terms of like how often I use medkits, it's like D tier, but it's only because I don't use them early, and I don't even use them that much in the mid game. Definitely use them later though, and on specific missions. The gate mission, the one with all the ambushing chrysalids. Since you know there's going to be chrysalids on it, and maybe you bring a specialist that can heal a lot and then give them a med kit, and that might be just enough, unless you want to play it super safe like I do sometimes. I like to bring 2 specs. I didn't get to do that on my last run. I didn't have a second spec that was good enough to really reach the finale, so I just had the one, but it turns out we didn't even need the med kit on it anyway. We handled that mission so well, but it feels good to have it, because I feel like I could play a little more aggressive knowing the specialist has this, and they can heal like 2-3 times in the mid game, 4 times in the late game. Battle scanner you get pretty early. I think that's trooper research though. Yeah, trooper research unlocks battle scanner to be purchased from engineering. This is throw it and it reveals everything in that area. So you throw it in fog of war and it reveals everything in that area, so you get to see any hidden enemies. It does a couple other things too, like it'll reveal your hidden faceless on a retaliation mission if you don't know, like if you can't afford to deal with the faceless and there's a lot of civilians to be rescued, you can throw this on top of them and it will reveal who the faceless is. Be warned though, it does reveal the faceless, so it will start fighting you. I've used it a couple times for that. I don't feel like I use it anymore for that. I just try to play with the map in mind and very defensively on my first retaliation, but that's probably the best case used for is that first retaliation. If you find scouting to be pretty powerful, this is probably something you use. I find scouting to be useful, but I only really need a small amount of it. I'd rather take something else in my utility slot over that. I mean, if I had to take this or a grenade, it's almost very similar to me actually, but I usually opt for the grenade. I just don't think scouting's necessary. I usually just rely, because I go stealth build for rangers, so I rely on them to scout ahead for me. Really, that's only for 1 pod, but I feel like that's enough advantage. And then you get conceal later at lieutenant, so you can do it a second time and scout with them, and then you can handle 2 pods, and then really you just need to handle the rest of them without being able to ambush for free. I think that's okay so far. I wouldn't change any of that. What would normally come up next? Mindshield comes up pretty early. You only need to research sectoids and you get a sectoid corpse. This is probably A actually. Even though I swear by bringing it on the finale, every single time I get to the final mission, I still think it's not S. I still think it's A. So Mindshield keeps you from being affected by any mind controlling abilities, mind affecting abilities. I assume disorientation too, you're immune to getting knocked unconscious. Anything that would affect your mind, sectoids get countered by this. More importantly, if you're playing War of the Chosen, Warlock likes the mind control. He gets countered by that. That's once you get up to him though. He's gonna annoy you with the zombies until then. And it does neuter. And I've had someone say that the avatars are much better than I give them credit for on my enemy tier list because of how much you have to prepare for them. But I don't feel like you're really preparing all that much for them just by equipping one utility item, because it helps against so much other shit that could happen on that mission too. Like if you got a badly timed stun lancer encounter before you even reach the second half of the finale and they knocked someone unconscious, you're gonna be so mad that you don't have this and you have no way to like revive them, and it's just like your runs could just be dead, especially if you're doing the 4-man run. That would be a frustrating way to go. I don't even want that possibility to exist. That's why I swear by wearing these on the finale on everybody. There's another item when we get to that I also make sure everyone has one of too. And then you get Frostbomb pretty early. Yeah, this is with the DLC though. So if you have the Alien Rulers DLC, you can get the Frostbomb. Freezes an enemy for, well, anyone caught in AoE for 1 turn. So can't deal with the last remaining enemy. which is what usually happens before I decide to use it. I can't deal with the last enemy and it happens to be a threat, I'll throw the Frost Bomb on it. Its AoE though is pretty limiting unless it's on a Grenadier. On a Grenadier it's a 3x3, but on anyone else it's the AoE is like a plus sign. That's it. It goes 2 across, no, it goes, well, technically it goes 3 across, 3 up, and then 1 in the middle. It's pretty hard to hit 2 things with this. Even with a Grenadier, you usually get 1 until maybe you upgrade to the advanced grenade launcher. Then you'll sometimes get 2. But generally you end up raising a high priority threat with this. Best counter to Muton, definitely going above C. Some people call the Frost Bomb overpowered. I only call it necessary because I fight with rulers on my missions. I don't fight with them on my facilities, and that makes a huge difference because if you deal with rulers only at alien facilities, you control the fight a lot more before you even start it with the rulers. But when the rulers show up on your objectives and catch you off guard, you're gonna wish you fucking had that. Even outside of rulers though, it is good. It is a good counter for a high priority target that's still left on the map, and you just don't want it to have a chance against you. You just freeze it. It really could be A or B for me. It could be A or B for me. I'm gonna say A. It's probably like low A though. Oh yeah, let's order them since there's actually not that many here. Let's actually order them. So I think that goes there. Top of D. I would definitely say that's top of D for now. Top of C. It's tough because it depends on like the part of the game too. If it's the early to mid, this is fine. If it's like the late game to the end game, I actually want these switched. Actually, I'm gonna do it like that maybe, because you can actually, if you get enough aim, in your playthrough, you get enough scopes, PCS perception, high ranked units, generally you're gonna hit without even removing cover. You won't even need it, but generally it's gonna be better to remove cover. It's gonna make the fight easier if you need to remove cover just to have grenades, but if you don't need them, it does a lot for you if you can somehow set your soldiers up to compensate for needing a utility item, like in this case not needing grenades as much because you have so much aim and you have so many abilities. Like Hella Bullets is an example of an ability that would just 100% guarantee a shot, and if you're running a squad that just hits pretty consistently, it's much better to take something else in that utility slot than the grenade. Take something that helps to support the fact that you're actually hitting often, like an ammo type. That's where grenades fall off for me, is when the aim becomes more consistent and the abilities become more numerous and there's more ways to do damage than just I need to remove cover so I can shoot this guy. Grenades start to fall off for me. I would say that's fine. Medikit's top of C for now. Frostbomb, Mindshield, yeah, I'd definitely say. I'd say Frostbomb's probably going to be like bottom of A for me. It's good, but there's also something that kind of does the same thing the Frostbomb does, but better, and that's the Mimic Beacon, which I'm going to go ahead and do since it only requires a faceless research, and I mean, most people would put it up here. Yeah, I take this thing on too many missions, and I don't end up throwing it because it isn't necessary. I think it's very similar to the Frostbomb in terms of how often I need to use it. As often as I need to use a Frostbomb against rulers, which is not every mission. God forbid they show up every mission, but I don't know, maybe like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 missions. Frostbomb is really good. I think that's similar to the Mimic, but for a different problem, which is a numerous enemies, or a single Andromedon. Now, I would actually put it above the Mindshield. Even though I don't take the Mimic on the finale, the Mimic is not as good on the finale because there's just so many ways to like avoid damage, just stay away from the enemies in general. The Mimic just gets overrun by the amount of enemies on the finale that it falls off there, and the Mindshield's actually better. But I think generally, I think the Mimic's doing more than the Mindshield. Oh, yeah, another really good use for the Mindshield too is you don't have to worry about the soldier panicking if they have this equipped. So if you have a negative trait that would cause your soldier to panic, for example, if they were to miss or see a chosen or get poisoned, anything that requires you to roll a chance to panic, that unit has a mind shield on them, they cannot panic. It'll still roll the chance and it'll still say resisted or failed or whatever. Even though it might say you fail, you still won't actually experience the panic. It'll just do that check anyway. and nothing will happen. So this is really good if you have to take a tired unit out and your armory is kind of thin. You don't really have a choice but to use a soldier with a negative trait that has a chance to panic. And you just want to make sure they don't fuck up the mission. You throw a Mindshield on them. It's a nice thing to have one or two of. By the finale, it's a nice thing for everyone to have, at least for me. Skulljack feels a little mid-gamey. Oh, the Ultrasonic Lure. Okay, this one's going to be a hard one for me. I've only ever thrown this item a couple of times. So this is associated with the Lost, with the War of the Chosen. We don't deal with Lost anymore because they're an incredibly boring experience to deal with zombies. So I don't get this, but you have to research the Lost in order to get that, or to make it available to be purchased. And what it does is it's a lure for zombies specifically. So you throw it, zombies in the area will move to it and attack anything within the AoE of the lure. So you can use it to make zombies fight for you. Sure, that's neat. But I hate playing this game with zombies in it. It makes it so much less interesting. So I don't see this anymore. That being said, it can be used to help you. And I also believe, because you know if the mission's got Lost on it when you deploy, right? It'll be like Lost, right where the sit rep is. I think that if the sit rep does not contain Lost, I believe if you throw this, it does turn the mission into a mission that has Lost on it. I believe that's the case. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember. I think somebody told me that. I think I threw it to test it and it worked. I thought that was interesting. But Lost are so lame. They're so lame. They're so bad. They're so annoying to deal with, like, for you. But I feel like they're not that difficult for the enemies to deal with. The enemies just ignore them generally, or if the enemies do shoot at the Lost, I feel like they always know when to stop shooting the zombies and then shoot you. You ever find that happens a lot? Like they'll decide, all right, I could take 4 attacks in a single turn, and then they'll shoot 2 zombies. They could shoot a third one, but then they stop and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot one of your soldiers with the 3rd shot, and it'll like hit every time. And I'll be like, how'd you know? How'd you know when to shoot exactly when your attack is going to hit? I don't know. It just feels like there's shenanigans with that. Yeah, I don't like it. I see how it can be useful though. The rulers are really bad at dealing with the Lost. The Lost will attack the rulers, and they've actually saved my soldiers in the past, and they've also killed the Zerk Queen for me without me even needing to be there. But I also spent like an hour waiting for one zombie to knock her out. I think this goes in D simply because I don't like Lost, but I think if you actually make use of it, it's in C. I think it's okay. I think if that's a playstyle you want to do, is use zombies to fight for you, you can, but it's a very slow, excruciating process, and the zombies aren't manageable. They just do their own thing a lot of the time. They're really bad at hitting enemies, but they are annoying for the rulers to deal with. Oh yeah, another encounter actually that I just thought of. The Viper King was neutered by a Lost. Actually, I think the Viper King was swarmed, and what he kept doing was binding Lost. He would keep using his reaction just to wrap himself around a Lost, and it killed them over multiple turns, which just gave us multiple free attacks to kill him. That experience with the Lost also kind of annoyed me, because sometimes they can neuter the rulers since the Lost can do their own thing, and the rulers generally just swipe by him. And sometimes that can help. Skulljack, that feels a little mid. Are we moving on to the mid-game stuff now? Oh fuck, what is this called? Refraction Field? Sustaining Sphere? Yeah, I think I'm gonna move on to Skulljack here. Skulljack is gonna be C. I'm having a hard time finding something to go in between these 2 tiers here. I think Skulljack is C. I think it's a one-of utility item, like the Flashbang. I feel like the most use it gets is like 1 on 1 specific unit, and that's gonna be your specialist. You can upgrade the Skulljack to add plus 20 hacking, so that's why you want it on your specialists later, but until you upgrade it, it's really just used to complete story missions, or specifically 2 Skulljack objectives. First one where you have the Skulljack and Officer, and the second one where you have the Skulljack Codex. And I don't usually put them on my specialist in that case. Usually I put it on the Grenadier for some reason. I find that putting it on someone who does the least amount of damage to the follow-up enemy that spawns from the Skulljack gets the Skulljack, and that's not always a specialist. But outside of doing the story missions or doing the story objectives with it, you can use it to outright kill an Advent humanoid. I think any Advent humanoid, Spectre, Codex, Officer, Trooper, Stun Lancer, Priest, Shield Bearer, I think any of those, you can just use it to one-tap them. you do have to go in for a slash with it, which is a little spooky. And when you do the story objective Skulljacks, it's guaranteed to work. Even though it says 70%, it's guaranteed to work if you're doing it for the story objective. But outside the story objective, the 70% chance does mean 70%, so it can fail, and you're going in for like a slash opportunity, so you're advancing, which could be risky. It's going to be hard to use this normally because it's a 70% slash. I mean, it's a one shot on specific units, sure, but it's still a 70%. I don't trust that. So really later on after the story objectives, I like it for the plus 20 hacking, and that's if I have a specialist that already got some additional hacking, whether it's from covert operations, or it's from hacking a device, and they happen to get I think enemy protocol is what it's called, and they get like plus 20 hacking from that. Then I'll stack that with the upgraded Skulljacks plus 20 hacking, and then I'll use them as a hacker man. If I don't get that though, it's just regulated to being used for story, and that's it. And generally I find that's how it goes most cases with the Skulljack. So while I could put it here if I had someone with a good hacking stat, or actually even there, I generally don't find that happens, and I don't usually go for a hack anyway. Yeah, stunning a sectopod is really good, but chain shot Bluescreen, that exists, and you can't stun gatekeepers with it, but Bluescreen can deal with both those enemies, so it's kind of hard to argue for the Skulljack unless you're just using it for the passive hacking. Upgraded grenades, well, this is easy because it's better than the frag. Bam, there's our first B tier. Now going back to this, I actually want to order this. I think I would prefer plus 20 hacking over the plus 1 health and the plus 20 defense from, yeah, I would prefer to have the battle scanner for scouting over the Skulljack. I think scouting, that little bit of scouting it does is more valuable than the little bit of passive hacking that provides. Yeah, plasma, this is just upgraded Frag Grenade. Frag Grenade does 3 to 5, removes cover. This does 4 to 5, removes cover. Big surprise. But it's better at removing cover, so usually things that would take 2 grenades to break, this will break it instantly. There's a lot of pillars that can't be broken with 1 grenade. Sometimes you need 2, but with 1 plasma grenade, it'll drop the pillar down with 1 hit. It also instantly blow up cars. Frag grenades do not instantly blow up cars. They do set them to blow up, but you need a second frag grenade to actually have the car blow up. But with plasma grenade, the car, it blows up instantly, so that's useful. That in itself is very, very useful. More useful, in fact, than the plus 1 damage that it gets from just being upgraded. And over that, the cover removal. The consistent cover removal is more useful than the instant car blowing up property. Overall, yeah, it's better. It goes there. But I wouldn't, listen, when we get the plasma grenades and those become the standard grenades we can equip on everyone, I would still take any of these over that, except in the case of the Mindshield, because the Mindshield's weird. It's good in specific comps, on specific units, or in specific situations, and this is kind of just good all the time. Good, consistent cover removal. More shred too. Yeah, I didn't mention the shred part. This removes one armor. This removes, I believe it just goes up by 1, so 2. Good for doing a handful of things with 1 utility item. So that's solid. Yeah, very situational tier at D, okay at C, and then overall good, B. A is great. S is gonna be something. It's only looking like it's gonna be 1 item. I don't know though. Maybe as I evaluate them more, talk about them, I might think of something else to put in S, but I know 1 item that's going in S for sure. All right, what would I like to talk about next in terms of like when we unlock it? Sustaining, oh, this is Priest. Right. All right, so if you get knocked down to 0 HP, you instead get knocked down to 1 HP and you go into stasis, and I assume you just wake up on the following turn, as in your turn. So it's not like you're gonna wake up and the enemies are gonna immediately shoot at you again. I believe that's how it works. I've never used it. The Templar gets this ability, I believe. I think the Psi Operative also gets the ability. So I have seen it in action. I have seen it work, and it can save someone. I can't argue that it could save someone, but you're planning for failure. That's what bothers me. And if you take something else over this and plan for offense, you might not even be in a situation where you even need to use this because you took a better utility item. That's kind of my issue with some of these that I think are bad. Like, I realize the effect is really good, but the secondary effect of taking one utility item is the fact that you don't take another one. And I think that's what really hurts this one. I think because you take this, you're not taking something else that's more offensive. It's gotta be D for me. Although I still think scouting can make a mission successful, but I don't necessarily think the sustaining sphere could help make a mission successful. It just like saves somebody. Now, that's something I'm a little more concerned with doing deathless playthroughs, sure. But if we're in a situation where that's happened and this is procced and someone could have died, then we're probably in a bad situation in the campaign overall. And this is just a band-aid for that. I think that's the way to look at it for me. It does feel like a band-aid. Nice to have when you get a boo-boo, but it's not going to stop you from falling out of trees because you keep climbing them. So, oh no, overdrive, refraction. Okay. I think I remember what this is, but I need to look it up. I think this is just conceal in the form of a utility item. Gives the user a single-use ability to gain concealment. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so it's lieutenant ability for ranger. So you can reconceal yourself. This is one that whenever I see it, whenever I unlock it, I never consider getting it, but whenever I read it again, I wonder why I haven't used it more often. Like even just a one of, because I don't always get to bring in my lieutenant ranger to conceal for me. So it wouldn't be a bad thing for me to use. I don't think it really just adds to the play I wanted to do anyway, which was take that lieutenant ranger. So if I don't get to take the lieutenant ranger, I can just give this to someone and give them that ability that helps me gain advantage over one pod. And that's really what it is. It gives you advantage over one pod because you get to scout it first before dealing with it. You can also, what I would do with it if I used it, again, surprising I haven't, what I would do is set someone up with refraction, use refraction, find a pod, make sure I can see every enemy in it, and then set everyone else up just on the edge of the enemy vision of that pod, and then put them on Overwatch until they pop it. It is kind of just a win against a pod utility item. I don't think it goes down here at C. Like I said, every time I read it, it's better than I think, but every time I see it in game, I'm just like, whatever. Don't need it. Got the ranger. And I think that's usually what ends up happening. I think generally I find that I have a ranger available because I usually try to make every class have a good backup. So, two of each class basically. So if the ranger's down, the backup ranger takes their spot. But in the case that I don't have that opportunity or the other ranger is a sergeant, then, that could be useful. And it fits right into my play style. And even though I have basically zero experience with it, I have plenty of experience with conceal. So I would feel very comfortable putting that B or C. Let's think about what you're taking up. You're taking a utility item slot for one ability. That does kind of hurt. I feel like Flashbang's more planning for failure, and I think Refraction Field's a little more for planning for success. And I think it gets better. It's going to get better later on in these frag grenades. They're going to fall off. I don't think it gets better than the Medikit though. Even though the Medikit is like the definition of planning for failure, you just got to know how to use your health as a resource. And this Medikit is secretly in disguise. It's actually planning for failure and success, because the Medikit allows you to be more aggressive, and plus a lot of combos with it. I mean, concealment's good combo for the ranger, but see, the ranger already comes with it. If you want to give it to your ranger though, that's not a bad play. Oh, proximity mine. Oh yeah, overdrive serum. That actually comes up before the proximity mine, because this is berserker research. All right, this is another one I gotta look up. Now, I was surprised because I did briefly look over the description earlier that it gives you 5 armor. I know it has damage reduction, but maybe that's just flavor text. Is the 5 armor the damage reduction? The soldier taking Overdrive Serum receives bonus mobility, mental immunity, and takes less damage for the next 2 turns. Alright, something else that surprised me was that this does not cost an action to activate. That's probably the same with the Refraction Field. since it's just conceal. But that did surprise me a little bit. I don't know why. I think I was always under the impression that it costs an action to use because it's like injecting yourself with a serum, you know? It does get removed. Oh yeah, I think that's why I hate it. It gets removed from the soldier's inventory when you use it. So it's actually a one-time use item. It provides 5 armor, +5 armor, +5 mobility, and then immunity to disorientation, panic, dazing, mind control. So it gives you the effect of a mind shield for 2 turns and gives you +5 armor and +5 mobility. You could actually set this up if you want to do one of those really, I guess, really cool solo ranger clips that some of you may have seen before, where like a ranger goes in and gets a bunch of kills and untouchable and the enemies can't seem to deal with it. You can overdrive serum and run them in for something like that with a Reaper, and that could go pretty crazy, but I think that's more like for fun. I don't know how good that is because that throws a lot of variables in the mix because you're like advancing, you're using Reapers, you're bouncing from pod to pod. I mean, you might end up just activating the whole map of 5 pods by doing that if you go too crazy with it. And sure, you got +5 armor, but I mean, what does that really mean when it only takes 2 well-timed crits to kill you? 2 well-placed crits? Or three attacks? Like, what's the health you have at the end game? It's going to be like 16 at Colonel and 4 full armor upgrade. 16 health, 17 armor, 16 health, 1 armor. I don't know what I said there. And then instead you'll have 16 health, 6 armor, damage reduced by 6. Generally you get hit by 8 damage attacks. That could be good, unless the enemy that goes first ends up shredding, and then you're not going to be happy to see those 8 damage attacks, especially if they crit. It's only going to take a couple, 2 or 3 to kill you. That's if a shred goes off. I think it adds too much variability. I can't get behind the fact that it's a one-time use item. I think it's the only item like that. Let me check Refraction Field. Refraction Field is actually the same. It's a one-time use item. The Refraction Field costs 100 supplies, and the Overdrive Serum costs 60 supplies and 2 Zerk corpses. Okay, I say Zerk for short, but that's Berserker corpses. Okay, I think I may have known this a long time ago, and then I forgot, and I was like, yeah, I don't like those. I think if you got nothing else better to do with your money, and you're just sitting on capital, I guess you can use them for fun. But we're talking about my experience with 4-man here, right? We don't have room for one-time use items. We definitely don't have supplies for it. One-time use items, I think, have to drop down. I didn't think this was, but since it is, it has to go down. It's sustaining sphere. The sustaining sphere has to be the same. Is it one time? It's another single-use item. Sustaining sphere. Why? I actually gave it a little bit of credit too. I mean, I gave Refraction Field some credit. I was giving Overdrive Serum some credit, but they're all one-time utility items. That sucks. How much is sustaining? Sustaining sphere is 75. That's a lot of money to ask to be used once. That's kind of crazy. Because I don't even think I already thought they were pretty niche to use anyway, but the fact that you can only use them once is kind of crazy to me. So now that they're in D tier, are they still better than anything, even if they're one-time use items? Nothing's worse than the Ultrasonic Lure, because I hate zombies. Do you think the Overdrive Serum could be set up to do more than the Refraction Field? Like, hear me out. Finale, you got the last avatar remaining, and your ranger has an Overdrive Serum, and you pop that, and there's like 20-something enemies on the screen. You pop Overdrive Serum, you pop Reaper. That could be a really fun turn. I think Refraction goes here. I actually think I would put the Overdrive over the Skulljack. I would need more experience with it. I don't need more experience with Conceal, basically, because I know how that works. And then Sustaining Sphere, I mean, it does make a lot of sense that it's one-time use. I just wish these were a lot cheaper. At least just cost, I don't know, 20 supplies and then the corpse associated with the item. +1 health could make a difference. Sustaining can make a difference. As far as I'm concerned, these can do the same thing, except this is always available and this is only for one time. It'd be really weird to see someone play this game at a high level and they always have soldiers equipped with sustaining spheres because they're afraid of death. This game should have broken that wall down a long time ago. death is just part of the process. I don't see anyone using this, because like new players would be like, oh, that's too much money, it's only one-time use. It's like playing D&D, right? And then you beat a really hard encounter, and then what does the DM do after the hard encounter? They usually reward you with items, experience, and gold, right? And then they hand you a few items, and then one's like a potion, and then the other one's like a food item, and then the other one's an unidentified necklace. Everyone's gonna scramble for the unidentified necklace. No one cares about the potion or the food item or the buff or the temporary thing. Everyone wants the item that's always going to be available, because they can also build their character around it. Overdrive over Skulljack, I could actually see myself using. I can use the Skulljack for sure. I could see myself using the Overdrive, maybe even a few times, like at the end game where you're setting on a bunch of supplies you don't need. Basically everything from like the Refraction Field on down, I don't see myself using. I would use the Refraction Field, but it's a one-time use. That's what holds it back for me. Proximity Mine, and then Bluescreen, and then I'll get to the grenades, or the experimental grenades, experimental vest, and experimental ammo. Alright, well, let's talk about Bluescreen first, because that comes up before Proximity Mine. Alright, the EMP Grenade. This does extra damage against mechs. I assume it's just doubled. I think it shows it's 6 damage to mechs, and then upgraded, it's 10 damage. Now, I don't show the upgraded versions of the grenades here. That's fine, because I don't think that's going to change my ranking at all, but just know this can be upgraded. It'll do more to mechs. It won't just always do 6. And I'll mention how much better the grenade gets, I guess, if it upgrades. This is a 6 to 10. I mean, it does 6 now and then 10 later if you upgrade it. It also does perform shutdown against mechs too, so that's basically like a turn loss for mechs. AoE is similar to the plasma, but it does nothing to organic enemies. That's what holds it back. Does nothing else to anything else but mechs. Now, this may actually have some secondary effects in terms of like using it on a codex to where they can't split, but I will have checked that one, because that would be a pretty good use for it. Deals damage to mechanical robotic units. Temporary shutdown mechanical units. Stuns or disorients codex. Can stun the gatekeeper, so it's a chance, not guaranteed. It lowers the tech defense of mechanical units by 5 points. That's actually very minor. That basically doesn't matter to me. Bypasses, collapses, Advent shield bearers, energy shields. That's interesting. I understand bypassing the shield bearer's temporary shield, but I didn't realize it collapsed. Like, it removes it entirely. Deals damage to Chosen. That's interesting. It does damage to the pop turret, Chosen pop turret that they hide in to revive. Destroys transmission, power relays, and missions to sabotage. I didn't know that. No effect against the Chosen kinetic plating energy shield. Stuns. I think basically stunning or disorienting a codex basically means they can't split. I believe that's the case, and that is a guarantee to happen on them, so that's pretty useful. I would never take EMP over the Medikit. I feel like there's quite a divide between these two items, and that's another thing that hurts me to put the Medikit at C, is that it can go all the way up to S. In the right scenario, it can go all the way up to S, but when it's not needed, it can go all the way to bottom of D and just not get used. It's tough to rank things just based on situations in which they're good, but that's how it goes in XCOM. But yeah, Bluescreen S tier. Bluescreen is an ammo type that adds +5 damage if you shoot a mechanical enemy and you have Bluescreen equipped in one of their utility slots. It's +5 damage to mechs. That's it. It's not complicated. It's a lot of extra damage, and mechanical enemies are very common the later in the game you get, and the more dangerous enemies are mechanical. You know what confuses me though? This didn't always work on the Gatekeeper. I don't know why they ever changed that. I think that was such a mistake to make the Gatekeeper weak to Bluescreen, but it used to not be, and the Gatekeeper was much more dangerous as a result. That's S tier. It's so big to be able to one-tap a lot of these mechs, heavy mechs, even the regular mechs. You don't want them to have that turn to use that rocket. It's so annoying. The for them to get that chip damage and that shred off. Codex is so annoying when they can get a side bomb off. You know they're going to use side bomb. If you leave a single codex up, they ain't going to do anything else but get that side bomb off. 13 health on codexes. This adding +5 in a lot of cases is going to give you that 13 damage you need to one-shot codexes. So the EMP doesn't become necessary to keep them from being a problem. I mean, obviously it's extra damage. Sectopods is pretty dangerous too, but they're like puppies when Bluescreen's involved. Gatekeepers, Andromedon, but only when it's in its shell form. Specters are +5 to Specters too. Generally, I find that I can crit a Spectre with Bluescreen, and that's usually a one-shot. I find that the Rangers one-shot the Specters when they have Bluescreen on. That's very nice, even though Specters aren't too bad. It's really the Codexes, the Sectopods, the Gatekeepers, and if you want to be able to take out Andro from its first form to its second form in a single turn, I haven't found an easy way to do that without this, because second form shell has 22 health, so it's a lot of health to chunk through, especially when you already had to chunk through 22 health and like 4 armor the first time. This does so much for your action economy. So many enemies just get countered by it, and it combos so well with Grenadiers, because you want to open up with Shred anyway, right? So give your Grenadiers some Bluescreen, do +10 damage with the chain shot, because it's not just +5. If you shoot multiple times, it's 5 times the amount of times you can do an attack to that enemy. So that's why it's also really good on the skirmisher. If you don't like that your skirmisher only does 5 damage, well then give them this and they can do 10 damage instead, 20 damage if they shoot twice against half the enemies in the game, and you're going to be very happy you did. That's S tier, no doubt. That's the second item that I always take on the finale. I always take these two. It's always going to be these two, except for last stream. I did actually give someone a med kit because they were a specialist. They were my only specialist, so I felt like I kind of needed it just in case things went poorly. Usually I would run more than one spec on the finale. That didn't happen that run, so I brought the med kit just in case. Turns out we didn't even need the med kit by the end of it. And now we're down to all the experimental, no we're not, proximity mine. This is another one I gotta look up. So it's similar to the Reaper's Claymore, but it's worse. Alright, base damage is 6, armor shredding is 2, blast radius is 4, and you can shoot it up to 12 tiles. I'm sure the advanced grenade launcher helps with all those stats. That's great and all. Base damage 6. Proximity mine, I don't think it gets upgraded because you just buy it from engineering. So its base damage can go up to 8 with volatile mix. Well, how it works. Well, if you're familiar with how mines works, basically that's how it works. It can only be activated by an enemy move action. I'm glad they listed these examples here. The grapple, teleport, and sectopod leg extensions do not trigger the mine. So there are some enemies that it would even be good against. Grenades, bombs, explosions, heavy weapons do not trigger the mine. Yeah, that's terrible. Okay, so you can't even combo this with other bombs. Now, if you throw the proximity mine on a pod of enemies and then throw a separate grenade on the pod of enemies, when the enemies run away, yes, the proximity mine will blow, but it doesn't all happen at once. That's actually kind of annoying. I would prefer that it all happened at once. It's good to know that it doesn't break concealment when you throw it, but when the proximity mine triggers, it breaks concealment for the whole XCOM party. So basically you lose group stealth once the proximity mine activates. So again, worse than Claymore. So it's worse than Claymore because you can't blow something up with it. It's also worse than Claymore because you can shoot the Claymore and not break concealment with a Reaper. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, it only blows up when enemies move on it, and you got to be ready to fight after that because it does break group stealth. I don't get why you would use this. And this is all the way up to Andromedon research to get this item and to buy it. How much is it? It's 125 on Legend. 125 supplies on Legend. Late game because you're dealing with Andromedons, and you get a worse version of an item that exists at the beginning of the game if you have a Reaper, which is the Claymore. It's a horrible comparison for this item to have. It's gonna knock it down quite a bit. Now the Claymore is not in this list because it is specific to the Reaper. I didn't feel like it should go in here because you don't get to choose to equip the Claymore to the Reaper. They just have to take a Claymore, and then they only get one other utility item. I think that's only with the hidden ability though, for tactical rigging. I just don't see how... I don't see the case for why you would want, or how you would be able to use this when you could just launch a plasma grenade, do the same thing, but get the instant result. What's the difference? I'm really trying to map it out in my head here. So let's think about it. I'm in group stealth. I got a grenadier with me. They have a plasma grenade and proximity mine. I got one of each. I can decide to open up with either one of those. I keep 3 of my guys back. I move the grenadier up, and I want to open up by throwing the plasma. Does the damage, does the shred, but the plasma does 4 to 5, 6 to 7 with volatile mix, and the proximity mine does a flat 8, same amount of shred with volatile mix. So I guess consistently the proximity mine is 2 more damage. In most cases it's 2 more damage, but if I throw the proximity mine, there's something that could happen that wouldn't make it as good, and that would be the enemies don't move. If I throw the proximity mine, especially because most missions are timed, right? If I throw the proximity mine, I'm on a timed mission, and the enemy pod decides not to move, I have essentially lost a turn unless I send another guy forward to shoot and have them essentially open up the pod instead of just the one grenadier action to do it. That way they move, blow up from the proximity mine. I think that's really the trade-off. I think you're really trading off the consistent 1 to 2 extra damage for having to use someone else to open up the pod. But it doesn't, you can't use a proximity mine to remove cover. It's not reliable, not unless an enemy moves over it. But if you need cover removal, the proximity mine is a dead item. So while there's a small benefit in like the 1 to 2 points of extra damage, the detriment is so much more that you can't even use it to consistently remove cover, because it has to be triggered by an enemy move. It can't be used any other way than to ambush with. This can be used to ambush with, and to remove cover, and to damage and remove cover. This has a very specific use. It's a consistent thing that happens where you're able to ambush a pod, sure. And I guess that's okay as a one-of. I just don't like that I would have to send another person up if the pod didn't continue to move and have that blow up on its own. I think it makes the pod that you ambush slightly better. Well, you get a slightly better ambush, but you get an item that's less flexible and it requires some setup, costs 125 supplies. Yeah, it's going C. It doesn't go D though. As much as I would like to put it in D. Proximity mine versus EMP. See, EMP kind of has a similar issue. Yeah, one scenario in which it's good. It says one scenario in which it's good, but I feel like the EMP is the one scenario. Like if you get a scenario that's good for mechs, this isn't just good. It like counters them. I don't think this is like good. This is not really a countering item. This is just slightly better in a plasma if things go your way. I guess I would take it over a Frag Grenade, because it's just like not that much damage. It's very little shred. It's not consistent cover removal. And this is better in an ambush, as an ambush item, I guess. And this is pretty bad as an ambush item, but this can also be used to... How many walls have you seen me break down where I've been able to hack something 2 to 3 turns earlier because I had a frag grenade? This isn't going to let me do that. I still need to bring a grenade. So not only is it like limited in how it's used, it's got to be limited to the grenadier. And not only is it limited to the grenadier, it has to be limited to the second grenadier. I have to run 2 grenadiers to want to bring this item, to have the ambush pod be slightly better. Because on one grenadier, I want a plasma grenade and a frost bomb for like 90% of the game. And if I don't take the plasma grenade, then I want the experimental grenade of any other kind and the frost bomb. And if I bring a second grenadier, then I feel like I have room for this, and they can run an experimental grenade, proximity mine, or a plasma proximity mine. I think it's very limited. I think in terms of its usefulness, it belongs here, but I think in terms of like how easily I'd be able to get it onto a mission, it's D tier. It's very hard to find the space for it and find the setup for it. 'Cause I think for me, it would take me using 2 grenadiers, and that's much harder to do when you're only doing 4-man. Reminder, I am judging this based on how I play the game. 4 units, Legend, Iron Man, but I'm not including Grim Horizon. I don't think Grim Horizon really affects anything here. A 4-man Legendary Man, it's a lot harder to use that on there, but I think in terms of its effectiveness, it belongs about here. Okay, is that now just the experimental stuff left? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna start with the vest because I think the vests are the least interesting. So I already ranked the nanofiber, I think that's called, which is just +1 health. You get that's available at the start of the game. You just buy that. It doesn't cost that much, but if you need to fill out a slot, sure, you can just buy that, put it on someone. Here's a vest that I do not like, the Hellweave, and what it does is it's like Thorns. It's retaliation damage if a melee unit hits you or punches you or slashes you, whatever. Now, all the experimental vests are going to give you +2 HP. Keep that in mind. So it's definitely going above the other one that only gives you 1. So it gives you a passive ability. An enemy unit, after performing a melee attack against the wearer, receives 2 to 4 damage and is set on fire. Cost 60. Yeah, that's not much. That's not too much. I mean, you get +2 health. That's neat. I mean, I wouldn't call that good, but +2 health and an ability that's useful could be good. I don't think the retaliation damage is useful. I don't think there's like nothing in RPGs, MMORPGs with Thorns that's ever been that great, and that's all it really does. It's only against melee units too, so the least dangerous enemies in the game, Faceless, Zerkers. Alright, okay, look, they're a little dangerous early, sure, but by the time you get the Hellweave, that's chrysalids, you're in the late game. But I guess it'd be best against chrysalids if anything. I mean, they're not immune to being burned, and that would set up 2 to 4 damage and burn would set up very nicely for you to just have to take 1 shot against them, because they have an awkward amount of health where they're just outside being 1 shot by plasma non-crit. So it does set up for it to be 1 shot in the following turn, but generally you're not planning to take hits from melee units anyway, because they're melee units. You are gun units. Those are melee units. They shouldn't be getting that close to you to begin with. And if they do, you should have something ready for that. Unless the chrysalids are ambushing chrysalids, which is why this could be useful against them, but they're already not dangerous enemies anyway, and they show up way too late to be threatening and for this to be too useful. Besides, you can counter chrysalids with medkits. That's all you need to know. You can counter chrysalids with medkits. But the +2 health is nice, I suppose. Now, I would take +2 health over Flashbang. I think I would, yeah. I think +2 health is, it makes enough of a difference to get you out of range of attacks that you're normally worried about. So if you're like 16 health in the late game, 1 armor, and you're generally worried about taking 8 damage attacks, those are very common in the late game, taking 8, usually it's like 8 to 10 range. If you got +2 health, 18, 1 armor, 210 damage attacks cannot kill you, which is something you have to worry about from like the elite officers doing 10. Of course, if you get crit, then forget about it. You're dead if something else hits you for 10 after that. But I think in general, this could escape the 1 shot or a 2 shot having +2 health. I don't find that +1 health does that, but I do find that +2 health does that. And I know that because of how important it is to get the Warden armor. Even though Warden armor is just +2 health and +1 armor, it does make enough difference to get you out of range of getting killed in that particular part of the game, similar to when you get Predator armor. I had that issue recently, actually, and was the consequence of not getting Warden armor around the time I could have was I lost a soldier, and I went back and did the calcs on it. They took 3 damage, and then they took 11 damage. So they took 14 points of damage, and then they died. I believe they either had 12 or 13 health, but if they had either or and they had Warden armor, they would have survived, and that playthrough would have actually been deathless, which would have been insane. The Warden armor would have actually made that playthrough deathless, and I had the Warden armor available for purchase for maybe like an in-game couple weeks at that time, maybe even an in-game month. The issue was I was bottlenecked on Illyrium and alloys, and I was struggling to get what I needed to buy it. It's so expensive on Legend. But similar thing could have, like this vest, that could have done something similar. It could have saved that unit. They would have been left on like 1 HP. That playthrough would have been deathless. It would have made a difference. It can make a difference. I think it goes in C because it can make a difference. I almost feel like the battle scanner, I almost feel like you can put the battle scanner in C, because now that I've said it makes a difference, I'm over here looking at C tier on up, and I'm like, yeah, I see those making a difference. And I look at D tier, and I'm like, I don't see these making a difference, except for maybe that one. I tell you what, battle scanner goes in C. I don't think any of these make a difference. And I don't have enough experience with Overdrive Serum, but I feel like it has potential, which is why it's top of D. Hazmat Suit. Again, another +2 health, but I like this one more than Hellweave because it makes you immune to dot. Now, I don't know if it makes you immune to all dot. I don't know if it makes you immune to acid. Grants immunity to fire, acid, and poison. That is pretty dope. Hey, Jagged. Hey, buddy. Thank you for the raid. Welcome to my surprise 6 a.m. tier list. So Hazmat Vest is immunity to acid, poison, and burning. That is pretty useful. Still a little niche though. Generally you don't find yourself getting hit with dot. So if you do though, you're going to be happy you had that. And it's +2 health like that, and I feel like its effect is more impactful than this. It's almost kind of like having a built-in medkit. Definitely take it over the proximity mine, but I'd take it over an EMP grenade. I wouldn't take it over the medkit. The medkit can do so much healing and do the same thing. Like, you could actually compare these really easily because this is +2 health, right? +2 health and immunity to dot. The medkit is plus, what, 6 to 8, depending on the gremlin, the state of the game. And I can't remember when the medkit caps out. I can't remember if it's like 6 or 8 health. This is at worst, it's a +6 and you're not on fire anymore. And this is a +2 and you're not on fire anymore. Now, do I think it's better than EMP? See, that's the real question. Do I think it's better than EMP? I think I prefer the EMP. It's more proactive. Now, it doesn't mean it always gets use. Sometimes a pod's not good enough or it's not mech enough to throw an EMP on it, but I think the vest could do the same thing. The mission might not even be dangerous enough for the health to matter, for the dot immunity to matter. I think these are very similar, but I think in terms of like when needed and it gets used, what has the biggest impact? I think the EMP. I think the EMP, even though it's competing with Bluescreen, that's a tough comparison to have, man. That's a tough comparison to have on your resume. Is I'm Bluescreen, but I'm worse. I'm Bluescreen, but I'm more situational. I can't let that invalidate the EMP. I've used it before. It can be good. I think that's fine where it's at. This is I believe this is the plated vest. Is that what it's called? Plated vest. It gives you +2 like all of them, but it also gives you 1 point of armor. It is called plated vest. It's like having a second warden armor upgrade. That's not bad actually. Warden armor upgrade is exactly that, +2 health, 1 armor. If you can get another +2 health and 1 armor, an officer 10 damage twice could still kill you. It's unlikely though, it's unlikely they roll the max both times, right? If one of them crits, it'll make up the difference for the other one. I'm just thinking about like fully ranked soldier with 16 health, 1 armor. Suddenly they have 18 health, 2 armor. 2 crits is still gonna get you, or 2 high rolls can still get you. Those officers do 10. The elite ones anyway, the maxed out ones. Andromedons have like, you know what? That's actually a good one to check. Let's check Andromedon damage range. Damage range, Andromedon, beam cannon 9 to 11, and it has shred. Oh, I'm sorry, plated armor. I'm sorry, plated armor. Andromedon has shred. You're not as good as I thought you were. 9 to 11, so the average is going to be 10. So 2 average damage shots from an Andromedon still going to kill you. The first attack could be, let's say it rolls at 10, right? First attack's actually going to do 8. And then shred your 2 armor because it's shred 2. And if it does 10 again, which is its average damage, yeah, you're dead. Okay. Alright, so it's not as good as I thought it was. That's too bad. It's just an unfortunate damage range for the plated vest to be competing with, but that matters. Also very rude. I'm looking at the Andromedon. Its crit damage is +4. I do remember that they can do 15, but I still think it's kind of rude how much crits just change the game. I'd probably still prefer it over the Hazmat though, but it ain't going up a tier. I think because the armor is good in all cases, and the dot immunity is not good in all cases. Well, armor is good in more cases for damage reduction than dot immunity. I would put it over EMP, but I still wouldn't put it over medkit because at the end of the day, all the vest have to compete with healing. And this healing, this med kit, can do it 4 fucking times. That's hard to argue with, man. I think this is called the Stasis Vest. This is going to be another +2 health, of course, but it also heals you up to 4 HP per mission. Heals 2 HP per turn. Regenerate 2 HP per turn, up to 8 HP per mission. So it's like having your own personal med kit, buddy. Oh boy, tierlist, hey Smug. It's like having your own little personal med kit that works passively, so you don't have to worry about using an action with the med kit. Although it's going to heal up to 8 and that's it. This is a tough one. Smug, how often are you using the vest utility item? Because we're talking about experimental vest right now. Almost never. Same here. Is why it's a little hard to rank. But in terms of like its functionality, I know it's protective. So I think it competes directly with the med kit, especially the stasis. Does the regeneration actually remove dot though? It says it. Unlike a med kit, the stasis vest will not remove the effect of acid burn, burning, or poison. So you're still going to want to be med kit healed if you're worried about the dot. I think it goes right next to the hazmat suit. Hazmat suit is immunity to dot. Stasis suit is 8 healing. I think these two serve the other's purpose that they don't have, right? Hazmat deals with the dot, and then stasis deals with the damage that came from getting hit by the dot attack. You know, the acid bomb probably, if it's an Andromedon. But if I were to take one over the other, I think the healing is a little more valuable than dot immunity. I think that's gonna come into play a little more often. You're not getting one guy hit with 2 attacks, you're usually getting one guy hit with 1 attack, and you just heal that up next turn. Never use proximity mine. I used it once, and I said to myself, this is just the worst claymore. And it is a worse claymore. Do you prefer using medkit over a vest since it's team support? Yes. I feel like if you're gonna take vest on one person, you lean towards taking another one on another one, and then everyone has vest. That's it for vests. Vests are pretty bad, turns out. Nah, I don't feel like all the vests are that bad, but I do feel like they're just okay. There's like other things you can bring, and even if the vest had no additional effect and it was just +2 health, I don't think any of them would go in D tier. The +2 health is impactful enough to get you out of range of some things that you may be worried about, but I don't feel like +1 health is doing it. That's why it's in D tier. So even if these were just +2 health and nothing else, it'd probably still be like bottom of C, right, with the battle scanner and the flashbang. But at least they get the +2 health. Now the issue with vests, I'd rather invest in something like a spider suit, war suit, rather equip a grenade over a vest too. A D tier thing at the furthest right, that's the ultrasonic. Yeah, that's the lure. It's the ultrasonic lure for the zombies. We modded out the zombies so we don't actually use those in our playthroughs. Now if I were to actually rank it in terms of like how good it is, I mean, it could still be, it could probably be higher, but I hate dealing with zombies. I don't want to see them. I don't want my mission to go from taking 15 to 20 minutes to taking an hour because I threw an ultrasonic lure on a non-lost mission. They're not fun. They're so unfun that I think it's a bad item, just out of my philosophy. They're just bad. But like, if I was to actually rank on how good it is, it's probably somewhere around Flashbang Battle Scanner, if I were to be realistic with you, because I mean, I have used it before. It probably goes around here. I'll put it bottom of C. I just don't. I don't want to see zombies. I hate them. Does the medkit tier consider a healer specialist or just on someone else? As the medkit tier? Man, I do feel like you bring up an interesting point here. This can't be on the same tier. It's so wrong. It's so wrong. It can't be there. It's because when I was looking at it earlier, I wasn't thinking about like the synergies and the multiple uses and how good it is compared to everything else. And I'm just talking it up more and more. It's got to go above it. It can't be here. You're absolutely right. Better than plasma though? I don't know. What do you guys think? Better than plasma? Because you don't always need the med kit, right? I don't always take a med kit and use it. That's the issue with it. It's great when you need it. I don't always need it. Same with the mimic beacon, which is why it's not S tier. Whatever. I can't. It hurts me. I can't decide. But it doesn't really matter all that much. They're definitely both B tier. They're still good. Those are still good. These can be good. The C tier ones? The C tier ones can be good. I think they're just limited on, like, they're limited on how often they could be used. The little niche. And the D ones are just like, nah, I'd rather take frag grenades over just about anything here. The Overdrive Serum does seem like something I'm surprised I haven't played with, because but unfortunately it's a one-time use item. That's what really holds it back. Alright, we can move on to, there's less grenades, so let's talk about the worst grenade. Do we all agree that the Incendiary Grenade is the worst grenade? I hear people like this one. Some people come in, they say they like the Incendiary. I say it's the worst grenade every time. Like, I would rather have the Frag Grenade. For me, spoiler, this is going below the Frag Grenade. I don't know where exactly, but it's going below it. Can't think of a time I was glad I had it. Yeah, it's... I hate that it has one less damage. I mean, we're not going to talk about them upgraded too much, but when it does get upgraded, it gets like a little more radius, a little more damage. And I think this actually ends up being the most damage compared to all the upgraded grenades, because the plasma's like 4 to 5. And if the Incendiary is upgraded, it does 5 to 6. In that case, you could argue top of C tier. You could argue at top of C tier if it's upgraded, but as it is now, it's 2 to 3, which is worse than the Frag Grenade. But that's not the worst part about it. It doesn't break cover. It loses like the thing that makes grenades good. The main thing, which is breaking cover. It's just like, hey, I burn things. I'm like, that's cool. How much damage you roll for that? Enemy's turn comes out, rolls 1 burn damage. Enemy doesn't die. The enemy could have done something else, but instead they're on fire, so now they're going to shoot at you. Or just adds more shots to your team. I don't like that. Especially if it's enemies that don't normally shoot at you anyway. You hit a burn on a shield bearer or a sectoid and it survives. It's very annoying when it shoots the following turn, because you could have just like thrown a grenade, broke the cover, and killed them instead. But going for like the burn kill, especially when this thing only does 2 to 3, it's gonna roll 1 damage. You know it is. It's gonna do basically the same damage as the Frag Grenade at the end of the day, because enemy ain't gonna have more than 1 turn usually. It's gonna basically do the same damage as this, except you don't get to remove any cover. It's so stupid. You don't get to shred armor, and I don't remember if mechs are immune to it, but if that's the case, that's stupid. Anyway, I don't really like it. You can go above the lore, I guess. It does get upgraded to do 5 to 6. It can stay there. Acid Bomb, I would talk about a good one. Acid Bomb is really good. Isn't it like similar, like basically the same damage as plasma? I think it might be. I think it's just like the additional shred and the acid burn. 2 armor shredding. Base damage 3 to 4. Same as frag. So not same as plasma. Until it's upgraded, I'm sure. Flicks acid burn. I'm going to look at acid burn, because I feel like acid burn rolls pretty high. It still says 1 to 3. I felt like I've seen acid burn roll 4 before, but at least it's going to work on mechs since it's acid. I feel like next grenade. Oh yeah, it for sure. It's superior. It's definitely going a tier up. It's 1 less damage than plasma, but you get extra shred out of it. You also get the acid burn out of it, but you lose cover removal. You lose cover removal though. Definitely better than fire. Yeah. Now, if it's like upgraded acid bomb against plasma, it's probably acid bomb. I think in general, I prefer the acid. I think it has more staying power than the plasma. When you don't really rely on cover removal anymore, if you have other ways to remove it with abilities, see Saturation Fire as an example for cover removal. That also allows you to shoot in the same action. Acid Bomb gets better. I think it goes above. I don't think it goes A here, because losing the cover removal is losing a strong function. Early on, when there's not that much armor, this won't do a whole lot, and you're really just happy to have it for the acid burn. And then later it's going to get good because it shreds a lot of armor. I think it stays in this too. Yeah, I think, yeah, B's fair. Now, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one. Now, is it A, though? This is my favorite one because it's a bigger blast radius. That's one. That's one reason. The other one is poison, obviously. That's very effective defensively, and I think it's very effective both defensively and offensively. You can say the same for the acid, right? But it's mostly damage that the acid provides. The gas bomb provides less damage but more consistency, and a flashbang effect in the form of poison. Poison drops enemy aim. So if you're worried about that, you still want to do damage. Of course, you still lose cover removal, so it might actually keep me from putting it up a tier. So yeah, it does the same 3 to 4, shreds 1 armor, but it has 1 more tile blast radius, which makes it more consistent. I pretty consistently hit 2 enemies with the gas bomb, and it also leaves a gas cloud, which is similar to the acid bomb. It leaves acid. Of course, you don't get to do damage with mechs with it, but what makes it really good is rulers. It's really good against rulers. See the poison reductions at -20. It's actually -30. That's really good. Now, it doesn't work on everything, but it's the best grenade outside of frost bomb, obviously, against the rulers. In fact, it might even be as good as a frost bomb against rulers, because rulers are the strongest thing in the game, and being able to deal with the strongest thing in the game is very important. And I feel like B tier kind of does that, but I feel like these two specifically do more against rulers, because cover removal doesn't matter against them. They're just going to reposition. Healing doesn't really matter because you're going to use an action and you're just going to let them shoot again. I think actually, because rulers are such an important part of the game, and the only reason we have a death on that playthrough, it's the only reason. The only reason I felt like that playthrough was hard was because of rulers. Because we don't deal with these things on just alien facilities. We deal with these things on our time missions. We have to deal with them when we're trying to shoot relays. We have to deal with them when we go through a freaking tunnel to get line of sight on the objective, and the Archon ruler's 10 feet above and goes, hello, and looks down at you and devastates you. You want dot on them. You can say the same thing for the incendiary bomb, but they're going to be on fire, so they're going to constantly shoot. Sometimes the rulers use an ability, and you're happy they use the ability instead of attacking you. Whatever they do a reaction, they take the dot. That's very important, and the best dot's going to be poison. It's still 1 to 3 damage, just like the acid. Sure, it doesn't shred as much, but that's not what you really want it for. That's -30 aim for every single reaction they do, every single attack they do. And when they can do a single attack every single time your unit does something, that -30, that stacks so much more than just, this doesn't really do anything besides just the damage and shred. Poison can be a bit finicky for what it affects, just like a D&D. Yeah, but it's good against all the rulers. It's completely shut down the Zerk Queen for me. That's the most notable experience that I've had with Gas Bomb, is whenever I get it, I can't wait to see the Zerk Queen. And usually I get it when I've already kind of dealt with the Viper already, or the Viper's already dead, or it's already on low health and doesn't really get that much use. Viper does use its aim quite often. The Zerk Queen struggles against the Gas Bomb in particular, I think because the AI doesn't want to move because of the cloud that's left. And I think a similar thing happens with the acid bomb too, but because this is larger and affects a larger area, it's more likely to actually surround her, and it actually stops her from moving. They just will not walk on these gas tiles. But if I hit her with a frost bomb, chances are she's probably on the edge of the radius in more cases than the gas bomb, and she'll just like move out of it and start doing her thing. Thank you for the follow. Rules are the real ending boss of the fact they're not playing in the same game rules. Yes, and that's why they're cool. They're dicks, but I think that's why they're cool. I'd always play my playthroughs with them on. That Archon ruler was poison, could have missed. Yeah, definitely could have missed. I would have definitely used that before he really started popping off. I would have made sure I got a poison off or some sort of debuff. That's why before he did his turn, I looked at suppression. And I asked myself, when he was holding that unit in midair, I asked myself, would suppression work here? Because he's positioned in the sky, I wasn't sure if he dropped that unit, if the suppression would still be on him because he moved locations. I assumed it wouldn't work, so I just didn't use suppression that turn. But I was going for that negative aim effect, which could have actually saved her. And I wouldn't have had to question it if I had the gas bomb. I would have just thrown that early. Could have saved her, yeah. I think, comparing it to the frost bomb though, again, it's the ruler counter, so are these. Gas bomb is very consistent though. I guess at the end of the day, this is locking down an Andro. And Andros are the biggest threat, in my opinion, on 4-man runs. Not sectos, not gatekeepers. Even though I feel like gatekeepers are close, unfortunately they're weak to blue screen. Might be a little hard to hit, but being weak to blue screen really hurts your chances for being a threat. So I think the Andro edges it out, and this is a very good counter against an Andro. So even when you don't run into rulers, you're happy to use that on him. And same with the Mimic Beacon. You're happy to use the Bacon against the Andro, but I feel like it's way more flexible, and I think it has a potential to lock down more enemies than the Frost Bomb does. I think that's fine. I think that's fine where it's at. I love ammo. I think ammo is really fun for builds. I think it's like grenades. I think it's pretty similar to grenades, except it's more. You build more with the ammo than you do grenades. Let's start with Tracer Rounds. That's the simplest one. The Tracer Rounds is just plus 10 aim. Oh yeah, Enemy Within had that too. Actually, now that I think about it, they literally had the same item. Except it was a time when we couldn't put gun mods on our weapons. That was a sad time. And we had to put a scope in our utility slot. What a wild time. Instead, you put this ammo, Tracer Rounds, as plus 10 aim. Plus 10 aim is pretty good. It's going to be better when you got someone with more abilities that wants to take advantage of the extra aim. Scope. Plus 10 doesn't seem like a lot, but it's when you stack it with all the other things that give you aim. Scope, PCS, someone with holo targeting, and then you want to get off a nasty rapid fire, or you want to make sure your guy with serial has this. That definitely bumps the Tracer Rounds up. If you're just using it generally on anyone, but if you're using it on someone that's like super high value for them to hit their shots and continue their combo, like serial, because you're not just hitting with a shot, you're continuing your combo to do more shots and get another plus 10, then another plus 10, then another plus 10. So like skirmisher, it's better because you get the plus 2 shots, right? It's also really good. You got saturation fire because you're hitting multiple targets. All those targets get plus 10 against them. It's something you definitely build for, and it makes it a lot better. It's kind of unassuming though, because it's just plus 10 aim. It's not complex about it, but it gets better with builds like that don't just benefit from hitting the shot because it's rupture. They also benefit from continuing the chain. I don't know. It's not going below B. When you've got a lot of abilities that really want to continue the chain or shoot multiple times, or you want to really make sure you get the rupture off, you really want that. You really want that extra aim if you have it available. Of course, you'll get to a point where you don't need it. In most cases, again, you get your aim from other sources, and you're high ranking. You're generally going to hit your shots anyway, so it does start to fall off. But while you need it, you're going to be happy you had it. I think that. I mean, that's similar thinking with the Medikit. A lot of synergy, but if you're doing well in the game, you're hitting your shots, you're doing well in the game, you're not getting hit. I think you could put these in any spot here. I think it goes next to the Medikit at least. I think it's fine there. It's definitely pretty good. Let me talk about one I don't think is that good though. This is the one I think is the worst. This Talon Rounds. I gotta look at how much crit chance this adds. You know what I'm wondering? I wonder if I have too many tabs open. I wonder if that'll help my, I mean, I doubt it. Might help my network connectivity. It is plus 20 crit chance. And I always forget this. It's also plus 1 crit damage. So when you crit, you'll do plus 1 damage on that hit. All right, so plus 20 crit chance. Plus 1 damage when you crit. Again, I like ammo types for how you can build around them. I don't think I could put it in C, actually. Even though I think Tracer goes kind of far above it, I don't think I could put it in C, even though I think it's the weakest ammo type. I just think the ammo types are really good. And I might even be wrong. This might not even be the worst ammo type to me, but we'll see when we get there. This only has one build though, to me. This is the Ranger. This is the Ranger guaranteed crit build. That's all it is. It's Conceal, Shadow Strike, plus 20 crit from the ammo, plus 40 from flanking, you're already at 60. Plus 10 because it's a Ranger, you're at 70. And then plus 25 because of Shadow Strike, that's a 95% chance to crit. You don't even need a laser sight. And that's why I think that build in particular is the best with Talon Rounds. Because you don't even need a laser sight and you have a 95% chance to crit the enemy is being flanked. That means you get to run a big old fat superior scope on your shotgun, and not only are you going to guarantee you hit that shot, you're basically going to guarantee you hit that crit. And that's the only build I like this on. So if I ever get Talon Rounds, that's exactly what I build for. And it's really good. It has always been really good when I get Talon Rounds and I build that Ranger out. But that's it. I feel like Tracer Round gets used on more combos, more abilities, more soldiers, but this really just gets used on the Ranger for me. AP. This is a necessary ammo type for one specific run. That is the skirmisher only class run. I had no choice. I had to build ammo in the early game. You like Talons and Rangers for damage? Right, yep, exactly, as I explained. So AP rounds allows you to pierce 5 armor. So anything that has 5 armor or below, all your damage goes through. So if it's a Sectopod or a Gatekeeper, I think Gatekeeper has 7 armor, a Sectopod has 6. You're still going to get a little bit of damage mitigation. You'll still lose a little bit of damage, but it's not that big of a deal. But this is more important for the skirmishers to have for a skirmisher only playthrough than Bluescreen is. Now, when I think I beat the game twice with 4-man skirmisher Legend Iron Man. I think I did it twice, and I think both times I ran 1 Bluescreen and then 3 AP. Yeah, generally I ran more AP than Bluescreen, or I ran all AP, but it is necessary to get through the game because while they have their multiple actions, they're not good at dealing with armor because they have less damage than other classes. It's not by much, but it's enough to really affect them, and very limited ways to remove armor. Like you got grenades, that's it. Skirmishers don't get shred as a hidden ability. They're already great. They would absolutely be busted if skirmishers could shred. So the only way you get rid of armor is ignoring it. So you need AP for that. I think that's really the only case it's really good. And then in every other case, when you're not using skirmishers only, you're probably just removing the armor and then killing that unit. You're probably not worried about piercing. It really does make me want to keep it in B, but it could probably go down to C. I think it's similar to Talon Rounds where there is one specific build, your opener. So the person that's always going to open up on the high priority, high armor target, whether it's Gatekeeper, Sectopod, or Andromedon, if they're always your opener, give them AP rounds. Ideally, you want your opener to be someone who can take a big shot or be stealth when they take a shot and have a high chance to crit, or they can get off a nasty rapid fire, rupture, chain shot to remove all the armor at the beginning of the fight and open up that way. Give them the AP rounds. So not only are they shredding the armor, they're already putting basically all their damage through and then leaving that unit to be taken out by anyone else because they don't have any armor left, and you don't have to worry about your damage being mitigated. Now it does in that scenario, it's probably adding like, I don't know, let's consider scenario here. You're opening up on an Andro and you're going to do a Grenadier chain shot, and you're going to remove all the Andro's armor after that chain shot, right? And that unit has AP rounds, and you do 8 to 10 with your cannon. You do, let's say you roll minimum both times. You do, instead of doing 8, you do 4, but you shred 2 armor. And then you do 6, but you shred the rest of the armor. So you've done 10 damage. Or you have AP rounds on, and instead of doing 10 damage, you get to put all your damage through, and you do 16 instead. So it does add damage, and it's best against your opener. Your opener really wants to remove the armor from the Andro, the Gatekeeper, the Sectopod, especially the Andro, because it's going to move to cover, and it's very upsetting when they do that, and they still have all the armor to protect them, even if you remove your cover. Most heavy armor units are max. How do you justify AP over Bluescreen? You don't. That's why it's an S. You don't justify it. I'm not arguing that there's really a case where you just don't bring Bluescreen over AP. Unless the Shadow Chamber tells you there's no mechs on the mission. That's the only case. But that is a case. That is the case where the AP is better. And if you're just running skirmishers for your whole playthrough, that's another case. But yeah, Shadow Chamber, there's some items that get better as a result of the knowledge that you have on the enemies before dropping in the mission. AP versus Bluescreen is one of those. So if you see that there's a lot of mechs on it, you bring Bluescreen. If you see there's like basically no mechs, that's a lot of psi units or it's a lot of armored units, you bring AP. So it's nice to have if you get a mission like that and the Shadow Chamber tells you you have no mechs and you happen to have AP rounds. There's no reason why you shouldn't be slapping out on it. It's going to be better for that mission. Tanky organic units. If it's a mission with only, I mean, it's not common, sometimes you get a mission like that. It's mostly just tanky organics. You might argue AP goes over the other rounds here if you just worry about pushing more damage. I generally find you don't get that many missions like that. I think you can, I mean, you can even just look at this and be like, all these are really good because you build an ambusher here, you build your ranger here, and then you build your sniper right here. There you go. And then your blue screen's your skirmisher. Okay, here's the one I think I might consider to be the worst. I might consider it, but the skirmisher exists, so it's tough. It's tough. I never thought it was that good before, and then War of the Chosen came out, and I was like, holy shit, I love doing +2 damage a turn. That's great, because you shoot twice. So not only do you get to do the +2 damage, because you do +1 per shot, you also get to burn twice. So if you were worried about whether or not you could pick off 2 troopers, because you only do 3 to 4 and the troopers have 4 health and you just keep rolling 3. If you have Dragonfire rounds, you're guaranteed to kill those troopers. They don't even need to die to the burn. They're already dead. They don't even get the burn. They just get the die. That +1 damage is big. These things don't get +1 damage flat. This one does, but it's only on a crit. This is flat +1 damage. That's huge. That's the best part about it. I mean, the burn's kind of nice as an option. I mean, generally I don't like burning things, so I find it a little risky if I decide I need to get the damage in on like a big unit and it's flammable and it happens to have a follow-up turn. I'm like, fuck, it doesn't have a choice but to shoot. Please don't kill me. That's the only thing that really worries me about it. But because it's comboed with the gun and the gun does far more damage than a single-use grenade here, I generally don't find that I'm going to leave an enemy up that's on fire to shoot me. But with the Incendiary Grenade, it happens all the time. I think the fire is going to roll 2, it rolls 1, the trooper lives, and that's stupid. It's so stupid. 4 health trooper, it's the beginning of the game, a pod of 4 health troopers. You throw the incendiary bomb on them. Most of the time it rolls 2 damage. Their turn comes up. Most of the time it rolls 1 damage for the dot, and they still get a fucking turn. That's embarrassing. It's not a standard grenade. What? Most of them are going to live probably. Usually at least one's going to be standing after all that. That's ridiculous. You couldn't just throw an experimental grenade and get rid of a pot of Goombas. That's why the incendiary bomb belongs there. So AP only performs better versus organic. I mean, Shield Bearer's chosen. Yeah, Shield Bearer isn't chosen. Andros too. Yeah, Andros too. Because you ain't really too worried about the second form of the Andro. You're really worried about the first. So that's a really good ammo type for Andros. And it's something I'm always worried about. Usually I don't see too many of them on a mission, and I usually resort to the Frost or the Mimic as my way to just counter them and for them to be a non-threat. The ammo type's so good, man. +1 damage. Man, +1 damage. It makes me want to put it all the way up here. These are good for builds, right? Tracer, Talon, AP. This isn't like an ammo type for making a specific build more consistent or making it viable. This is just an ammo type for making someone better, specifically skirmisher. +1 damage is hard to argue with. I mean, what if it was just theory craft in your head an item? Say you're making a new utility item for XCOM 2, and you're just like, I want this item to give this unit +1 damage on all their attacks. You'd immediately pause and be like, oh, is that too powerful? Well, here it is. And it burns. Coming by extra damage is pretty stingy in XCOM, huh? And this ammo type just provides it and stacks with multiple attacks. I can't remember if Saturation Fire works with Dragonfire rounds. Does anyone know? Do a cone AoE, everyone that gets hits on fire now? Crazy. You assume? I know not everything works with it, like stocks. Stocks don't work with Saturation Fire, which disappointed me because that would have been crazy. I would have brought stocks on the finale if that was the case. I'd use them in the late game. I usually stop using stocks in the late game. That would make me keep them. So not only is it just like flat damage up, a dot option. I mean, it works. It works with certain abilities, almost like a combo, but it's not tied to one specific build. It's tied to like multiple abilities. It's good. Extra damage, team synergy, and that does a lot for a little item. One little item like that. Alright, and here's the better version. Here's a better Dragonfire, Venom Rounds. This is basically the same thing. It's +1 damage on all your shots, but instead of the burn condition, it's the poison condition. Poison condition still does 1 to 3 damage every turn, but you also have to deal, what was it, -30 aim? Yeah, -30 aim. You got a flashbang in your gun. You can shoot flashbangs. Alright, yeah, so Venom Rounds, better than Dragonfire, does poison instead of burn, and you still get the flat +1 damage. Like I said, it's like having flashbang in your gun. Even better on a skirmisher, because that means they basically get the flashbang 2 people. It's not just the -30 aim though, it's also the negative, I think it's like -5 or 6 mobility. Same reason why the Zerker gets screwed by the gas bomb, except it's not one-time use. Yeah, because the Zerqueen has to move towards you, and then you're like lowering her mobility with the poison status. Sure, she doesn't get locked down because of the gas cloud around her, but it's so good against everything else, not just Zerqueen, not just rulers. It's really just not good against mechs. Yeah, if something is immune, I think this is the same with Dragonfire, I forgot to mention. If something is immune to burn, I believe the Dragonfire doesn't provide the +1 damage. I think that's similar with Venom Rounds. I think if something's immune to poison, it doesn't provide the +1 damage. Still, there's a lot of things that get hit for poison here. Ugh, kind of want to put this. It's better than the gas grenade. You get to use it the whole mission. It's not once. It's not just one. Whole mission. Flat +1 damage. Poison anything you hit. You get the flashbang effect. +1 damage. You get the dot. Put it on a skirmisher, do it twice a turn. Better than Mindshield. Mindshield is niche. Very, very good in its niche. I think it's better than Mimic. I think it's better than the Mimic. It's almost S to me. It's almost S. Yeah. If it's immune to poison, the Venom Rounds won't do that extra +1 damage. It's very close. It almost goes in S. It's close, but I don't think it quite does. This is a few points of extra damage to organics, and this is and the flashbang effect essentially, and this is +5 damage against mechs. But you don't get the flashbang effect of like the -30 aim. I'm fine leaving that top of A. You can win without Venom Rounds, but I don't think you can win without the blue screen. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I've been winning a lot of playthroughs with just the blue screen here, and I've not even had our brains get touched by any spooky abilities or mind control. So I've won with just this utility item, and this not even coming into play. And I never take this on the finale. I did have this on the finale last time. I think that may have been one of the very few times I ever brought on the finale. That's because I didn't have a good option for a grenade, and they have a grenade slot, so I was like kind of forced to bring it. Yeah, that's definitely how I would do it. I don't think I'd change anything here. And the ammo types are great. Yeah, I think anything B above is like good to game winning. This is game winning. This has always been game winning for me. These are great, but these 3 right here, these are like mission winning when you need them, right? But not always great, because they don't always need to be used. They're not always needed. But I think they have game winning scenarios, so they definitely go in A tier. But this is like, bro, this is always killing everything. And we had a medkit on the finale too. We also didn't. I mean, we did use it, but we actually didn't need it because it was like the second to last turn. I just decided to heal someone off a 4 damage hit that they took from a chrysalid. But yeah, it was my only specialist, so they were going to bring a med kit on that one just in case. And then some of these at the bottom, some of these that you guys don't really see or even use, like Sustaining Sphere, specifically the Sustaining Sphere, the Refraction Field, and the Overdrive Serum. While I do see use cases for those 3 items, that what's holding it back is that it gets used once and then it's consumed and then you have to buy another one. That holds it back, because I already think the effects are niche and they're very defensive effects, except for this one. This gives you a charge of conceal, which I like, and I think out of the 3 one-time use, I think this is the better one if it wasn't one-time use. But since they are one-time use, I actually think the Overdrive Serum is the best between the one-time use items, because it just feels so bad, man, to one-time use an item just to use the ability Conceal from the Ranger class at Lieutenant. But if you one-time use the Overdrive Serum, that's interesting, because it's like +5 mobility, you get 5 armor for the next 2 turns, and you're immune to all mind-affecting abilities. And you could go in with a ranger and be a fucking make a solo clip and reaper a bunch of shit if you have a lot of enemies on the screen. I think one time I gotta do that. I need to let a bunch of shit spawn on the final mission, and I need to have a ranger with overdrive serum, and I need to bring like a bunch of units to support that ranger, and I want to see how many kills I can get that turn, see how deadly his turn could be. That'd be very interesting to see. Yeah, that's it. I guess I should probably save this one, download that.